The village was dark and cold. The streets were narrow and broken. Old wooden houses leaned to one side, smoke floated in the air, and the smell of old fire never left. Two small children walked in silence. Their skin was pale, their hair was long and tangled, and their eyes were large like glass. They looked thin, hungry, and weak. Their clothes were nothing but torn brown rags. They had no shoes, no family to protect them. Their stepfather had left them only hours ago. He said they ate too much. He said they were nothing but a burden. Then he turned his back and disappeared into the smoke. The children did not cry loudly. They had cried too many times before. Now only quiet tears ran down their faces. They held each other's hands, walking through the ruined street. The night was coming, and with the night came danger. From the shadows, other figures moved. Some were villagers. They watched but did nothing. No one offered food. No one offered safety. The children were invisible, like ghosts walking in their own world. The younger one whispered, "Will we die tonight?" The older one answered with shaking voice, "No, we must keep moving. Maybe someone will help. Maybe we will find light." But deep inside, she did not believe her own words. The wind grew stronger, carrying dust and ash. The broken lamps on the street gave no fire. The sky above was heavy with gray clouds. A storm was waiting. The children pressed closer together. Then, a sound. Footsteps, slow and heavy. Someone was following. The children froze. Fear filled their wide eyes. A tall shadow appeared at the end of the alley. The figure walked closer. His boots splashed in the dirty water on the ground. His face was hidden by dark hair. His clothes were torn and patched, but his walk was strong. The children stepped back, afraid. Was this another man who would chase them away? Was this another stray? Anger who would turn his face and ignore their pain? The man stopped a few steps away. He looked at them. His eyes were sharp but also tired. He crouched down, moving slowly like he did not want to scare them. In his rough hands he held something. Food, a small piece of bread with herbs pressed inside. The children stared. They could not believe it. No one had ever given them food, not even once. The man spoke. His voice was deep but calm. "Are you hungry?" The children did not answer. Their throats were too dry, their fear too strong. They only stared at the bread. The man broke the bread in two pieces. He held it out with care. His eyes softened. "Take it. It is yours." Slowly, with shaking hands, the older child reached forward. She took the bread but did not eat yet. She waited, her eyes full of doubt. Could this be a trick? Could he hurt them once they trusted him? The man nodded. "Eat, little ones. I will not harm you." The younger child bit into the bread first, her eyes filled with tears. The taste was soft, warm, full of life. She had forgotten what real food was like. The older one ate too, slowly, as if each bite was a miracle. The man watched them, his face still and quiet, but deep inside something moved. He had seen suffering before, but these children were different. Something about their fragile faces touched a part of him he thought was long dead. The children finished the bread quickly. They licked their fingers, afraid that even crumbs might disappear. They looked up at the man with silent eyes, still unsure, still afraid. The man asked softly, "Where is your family?" The older child whispered, "Gone. He left us. He said we eat too much." The man's jaw tightened. He looked away for a moment. His hand closed into a fist. He knew cruelty well. He had seen it across many worlds, but it never grew easier to bear. He looked back at the chills. Ran his voice low. "Then you are alone, just like me." A silence fell, only the wind and the broken signs creaking above. The children shivered, their eyes still locked on the man. From the corner of the street, a noise rose, harsh laughter. The stepfather was near. He returned with two men by his side. Their shapes moved through the fog, their voices cruel. The children froze again, their breath caught. The man stood slowly, his back straight, his eyes turned sharp like blades. He placed his body between the children and the sound. The stepfather's voice echoed. "There they are, greedy little mouths, and someone foolish enough to feed them." The man's hand brushed over the knife at his belt. His voice was low but strong. "Stay behind me," he said to the children. The air grew heavy. The shadows moved closer. The children's hearts raced. Would this man protect them, or would he leave them like all the others? The alley filled with silence, broken only by the slow steps of danger approaching. And in that moment, for the first time in their short lives, the children felt something new. A spark of hope. The alley was silent. Only the sound of water dripping from broken roofs. The man stood in front of the children, his body tall and strong. The stepfather and his men came closer, their boots heavy against the stone. The stepfather laughed, his teeth broken and his eyes cruel. "So this is the hero who feeds my worthless mouths," he said. His voice was loud, echoing against the walls. The two men beside him carried sticks of iron, their faces twisted with hunger and greed. The man said nothing. He only stepped forward, his shadow falling over the children. His eyes were sharp like steel. The stepfather sneered. "Leave them, stranger. They belong to me. They are my burden, not yours. And if you touch them again, you will bleed." The man's hand rested on his belt, where a knife rested in its leather. He spoke slowly, his voice calm but heavy. "Children are not a burden. They are a life to protect." For a moment, silence spread. The words, "They're strange, almost unbelievable to the villagers who watched from the shadows. No one had ever spoken like that, not for these children." The stepfather spat on the ground. "You think you are different. You think you can protect them. You do not know me." The man's eyes did not move. "I know enough," he said. Then the first strike came. One of the men swung his iron stick at the man's head. The children screamed. The villagers gasped. But the man moved with speed. His body bent, his hand caught the stick, and with one strong push, he threw the attacker into the mud. The sound of bone hitting stone echoed through the alley. The second man rushed forward, but the stranger's knife flashed. The blade stopped just an inch from the man's throat. The attacker froze, sweat dripping down his face. The stepfather stepped back, his voice shaking. You're not from here." The man lowered the knife, his voice steady. "No, I am not." Fear spread in the stepfather's eyes. He turned and ran, leaving his men behind. The attackers stumbled after him, their courage broken. The villagers whispered among themselves. Some said, "He is dangerous." Others said, "He is strong," but all agreed, "He is not one of us." The man turned back to the children. His eyes softened again. He bent down to their level. "You are safe now," he said. The younger child cried softly, her tears mixing with dirt on her cheeks. The older one looked at him with wide eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you help us?" The man paused. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "Because once long ago, I was a child like you." He reached into his pack and pulled out a small cloth. Inside was more food, not much, but enough. He gave it to them. "Eat slowly," he said. The children ate, their small hands shaking. Every bite felt like a dream, warm and filling. They had not eaten like this in many days. As they ate, the man watched, his thoughts heavy. He had seen war, he had seen hunger, he had seen children left to die. But something about these two felt different. Something inside him stirred. A part of his heart he thought had turned to stone. The villagers began to leave, their whispers fading. The alley was quiet again. Only the man and the children remained. The older child looked at him. "Will you leave us too?" she asked. Her voice was soft but full of fear. The man took a long breath, his face darkened with memory. "I cannot promise forever," he said, "but tonight I will not leave." The children did not know what to say. They only moved closer to him, as if his shadow could keep away the night. The man built a small fire with broken wood. The orange light pushed away the darkness. The children sat near him, their eyes glowing in the flame. For the first time in many nights, they felt warmth. The man gave them his coat to cover their thin bodies. His own arms were bare, but he did not care. He looked into the fire, his mind far away. The older child studied him. She could see scars on his skin, long and deep. She wondered what battles he had fought, what pain he had carried, but she did not ask. The younger one whispered, "What is your name?" The man hesitated. His eyes stayed on the fire. Finally he said, "My name is Daniel." The name felt heavy in the air, foreign yet strong. The children repeated it softly, "Daniel." He looked at them, his voice low. "And what are your names?" The older child answered, "I am Lyra, and she is Nira." Daniel nodded. Lyra and Nira, two stars in the dark. The fire cracked, and the night grew quiet. Outside the small circle of light, danger still moved, but inside, there was peace. Lyra whispered again, "Daniel, will you stay with us tomorrow?" Daniel did not answer at once. He closed his eyes, listening to the fire. He remembered the life he had lost, the home that was gone, the people who never returned. He remembered Earth and how far away it was. Finally, he opened his eyes and looked at the two children. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will stay." The children lay down beside the fire, their small heads resting on his coat. Slowly, they fell asleep, their breath steady, their faces calm. Daniel kept watch, his hand never far from his knife. His eyes scanned the shadows. He knew this was only the beginning. The stepfather would return, and worse things would come. But for now, as the fire burned and the children slept, Daniel felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt like a father. The morning came slowly. The sky above the ruined village was gray, the sun weak behind heavy clouds. The fire Daniel had built was nothing but ash. Smoke rose in thin lines, drifting into the cold air. Lyra and Nira woke first. Their small faces looked calm for a moment, but hunger returned quickly. They looked at Daniel, who still sat awake, his eyes red from keeping watch all night, his hand never far from the knife at his side. He gave them the last of his food, dry bread and a piece of fruit. The children shared it, eating carefully. Daniel did not eat, he only watched, his mind heavy. He knew danger was not gone. The streets outside were not safe. Villagers moved quietly, glancing at Daniel and the children. Some whispered, "That human is trouble." Others muttered, "He will bring war." No one dared to come closer, but their eyes were sharp. Daniel stood and stretched his back, his voice low. "We cannot stay here." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Where will we go?" Daniel's face was hard. "Far from here, somewhere safe." But even as he spoke, he knew safety was not easy to find. They left the alley, moving slowly. The children walked close to Daniel, holding his coat tightly. Their steps were small but determined. They trusted him now, even if fear still lived in their hearts. As they reached the edge of the village, a sound stopped them. Heavy footsteps, voices, and the clatter of iron. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He pushed the children behind him. From the broken street ahead, the stepfather returned. This time he was not alone. 6 men walked with him, their faces cruel, their hands holding sticks, blades, and chains. The stepfather's voice was loud, filled with hate. "You think you can steal from me, human? Those 2 are mine. They are my blood, my burden, and no outsider will take them." Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice calm but sharp. "You left them. You called them a burden. They are yours no longer." The stepfather spat, his eyes wild. "They will always be mine, and you will die for touching them." The children clung to Daniel's coat, their hearts raced, fear filled their eyes. They whispered, "Daniel, please don't leave us." Daniel placed his hand gently on their shoulders, his voice low, "I will not." The men spread out, circling him, their boots echoed against stone. The villagers gathered at the edges of the street, watching silently. No one moved to help, no one spoke. The first attacker charged with a blade. Daniel stepped aside, his knife flashing. The blade struck the air, and in one swift motion, Daniel knocked the man to the ground. Another swung a chain. Daniel caught it with his arm, pain ripping through his skin. But he pulled hard, dragging the attacker forward. His fist met the man's face, and the sound of bone cracked. The children cried out, their voices thin. The villagers gasped, whispers spreading fast. "He fights like no one we have seen," they said. "No alien moves like that." The stepfather shouted, "Kill him, kill the human." 2 men rushed together. Daniel moved back. His knife cut one across the arm. The other he kicked hard, sending him into the wall. But Daniel was only one man. His breaths grew heavy, sweat ran down his face. His scars burned with every movement. The attackers regrouped, their eyes filled with rage. The stepfather stepped closer, his voice full of venom. "You cannot protect them forever, human. You will bleed, and when you fall, I will take them back." Daniel's eyes locked on him, his voice sharp as steel. "Over my dead body." The stepfather smirked. "So be it." More men came from the shadows, armed with spears and broken shields. The circle around Daniel grew tighter. The villagers whispered louder. Some looked afraid, some excited. They had never seen such defiance. Daniel moved his stance, his knife ready, his body between the children and death, his mind clear. He knew this fight would not end easily. The children held each other, trembling. Lyra whispered, "Why do they hate us so much?" Nira answered, her voice small, "Because we are weak." Daniel turned his head slightly, his voice soft but fierce. "No, you are not weak. You are worth more than they will ever know." Then the attackers struck again. Blades clashed, sticks swung. Daniel fought with every ounce of his strength. His knife cut through air and flesh. His fists struck like hammers. His body moved with skill born of survival. But the numbers were too many. A blade cut across his arm, blood dripping. A stick hit his back, forcing him to stumble. The children screamed, "Daniel!" Daniel rose again, pain burning, but his eyes bright with fire. He roared, a sound deep and primal. His knife flashed once more, and 2 men fell. The villagers gasped, fear spread among them. Some began to step back, whispering, "He is not normal. He is something else." The stepfather's face twisted with rage. He raised his own blade and rushed forward. His scream filled the street. Daniel stood ready, his knife low, his body steady, his eyes burning with fury. The children clutched each other, tears falling, their voices thin but strong. "Daniel, please don't die." The clash came with the sound of steel and bone. The fight was fierce, louder than the storm above. The villagers watched, their breath held. The children trembled, their hearts pounding. And in that moment, the world seemed to hold still. The future of two fragile lives hung on the edge of one man's strength. Would Daniel survive the storm, or would the stepfather take everything away once again? The answer waited in the shadows as the fight raged on. The battle ended in silence. The stepfather lay broken in the mud, his blade fallen, his men scattered like frightened dogs. Daniel stood tall, though his arm bled. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. The villagers whispered among themselves, afraid to come closer. Lyra and Nira ran to him. Their small hands touched his torn coat, their eyes wide with both fear and hope. "Daniel," Lyra whispered, "you are hurt." Daniel looked down at them, his face calm despite the pain. "It is only a scratch," he said, though the blood told another story. He crouched to their level, brushing dirt from Nira's cheek. "You are safe. That is what matters." The villagers began to fade back into the shadows. Some said, "He should not be here." Others said, "He is dangerous." Yet none dared challenge him again. Daniel turned to the children, his voice firm. "We cannot stay. More will come. We must leave this place." The children nodded, fear in their eyes but trust in their hearts. Together they walked out of the ruined village, leaving behind the smoke, the broken homes, and the stepfather's curses echoing in the distance. The road was rough, the land wide and empty, trees twisted against the wind, rivers ran shallow, and the sky stayed gray. Daniel walked ahead, the children close behind, their feet sore, their bodies weak, but they did not stop. By nightfall they reached a small cave at the edge of a cliff. The rocks were sharp, but inside was shelter. Daniel built a fire, sparks rising into the dark. The flames lit their ear faces, warm against the cold. He tore cloth from his own coat and wrapped his bleeding arm. Lyra tried to help, her small hands clumsy but gentle. Daniel allowed her, a rare softness in his tired eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. They shared the last piece of food, Daniel giving most of it to the children. When they protested, he smiled faintly. "A father eats last," he said, though the word felt strange on his tongue. The children looked at him, their eyes shining in the firelight. "Are you our father now?" Nira asked softly. Daniel did not answer at once. He stared into the flames, memories of his own lost family burning in his mind. His voice was quiet. "If you wish it, I can be." Nira hugged him tightly, and for the first time, Daniel felt something new, belonging. Days passed. The three of them traveled together, Daniel teaching them how to survive. He showed them how to find clean water by following bird trails, how to catch small fish with simple traps, and how to make fire from stone and dry leaves. Lyra and Nira learned quickly. Their weak hands grew steady, their tired eyes brighter. At night they laughed softly around the fire, their voices small but full of life. Daniel listened, a faint smile on his scarred face. He taught them more. Never walk with heavy steps, move like the wind, quiet and light. He placed stones on the ground, teaching them balance. Always watch the shadows, danger hides there. His voice carried the weight of many battles. The children began to see him not only as protector, but as guide. His words became lessons, his actions became stories. They followed him with trust, yet danger was never far. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, shadows moved at the edge of the forest. Daniel's hand went to his knife at once, his eyes narrowed. He whispered, "Stay behind me." But the shadows faded, only animals passing through. Still, Daniel knew eyes were watching them. He felt it in his bones. The world was not safe, and soon someone stronger would come. That night, the children asked questions. "Daniel, where are you from?" He was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "A place far from here, a world of oceans and forests, a world called Earth." The name meant nothing to them, but his voice carried weight. Lyra asked, "Why did you leave?" Daniel looked into the fire, his face dark. "I did not leave. I was taken, and I cannot return." His words fell heavy, and the fire cracked as if it too felt the pain. The children said nothing, but they pressed close to him. Their warmth reminded him of what he had lost, and what he might gain again. As the nights grew colder, Daniel began to teach them stories. Tales of Earth, of green fields, of strong rivers, of stars brighter than any flame. The children listened with wide eyes. their imaginations filled with pictures of a world they could never see. Yet in their hearts they believed. One night Nira whispered, "Earth sounds safe." Daniel's voice was low. It was not always safe, but it was home. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Daniel no longer walked as a stranger. He walked as a father, a guardian, a teacher. But the world around them did not forget. Whispers of the humans spread from village to village. "A man from the stars, stronger than any of us," they said. Some were afraid, some were curious, others planned to hunt him. Daniel knew the peace would not last. He could feel the storm coming. He looked at the sleeping children, their small faces calm by the fire, and he made a silent promise. "Whatever comes, I will not fail you." Outside the cave, the wind howled, carrying the scent of danger. The night was heavy, the stars hidden, somewhere in the dew. Distance. Footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate. The bond between them had grown, but so had the threat. And soon, Daniel would face the test of whether he could protect not only their lives but their hope. The cave had been a shelter, but Daniel knew it could not be their home forever. Too many eyes had seen him fight. Too many whispers carried his name. A human among aliens was never safe. One morning before the fire had even died, Daniel woke the children. His voice was low. "We must move again." Lyra rubbed her tired eyes. "Why, Daniel? We are safe here." Daniel shook his head. "Safety is never still. It must be carried with us." So they walked again, across long fields of dry grass, through forests where the trees bent like broken soldiers. Their steps were quiet, but in Daniel's mind, the sound of pursuit was always near. The children grew stronger under his care. Their legs carried them farther, their eyes sharper. Lyra could now spot small animals before Daniel did. Nira had learned how to tie traps with string and stone. They were no longer only survivors, they were students. But Daniel's heart was heavy. For every lesson he gave, danger gave two more. By the third night, the signs of hunters were clear. Tracks in the dirt, broken branches, and the smell of fire carried by the wind. Someone was following them, someone who wanted him. Or the children. Daniel's mind was sharp. He knew who it must be. Not the stepfather alone, but men who carried authority. Men who feared the story of a human protecting abandoned children. To them, he was a threat. That evening, he stopped by a river. The water was cold and dark. The children drank while Daniel watched the tree line, his hand resting on his knife, his body tense. Lyra looked at him, her voice quiet. "Daniel, are they coming?" Daniel did not lie, his voice steady. "Yes, they are." Nira held his arm, her eyes wide. "Will they take us away?" Daniel knelt beside them, his scarred face softened. "No, not while I breathe." That night, they built no fire. Daniel kept them hidden under thick trees. The children slept close, but Daniel did not close his eyes. He listened to the night, to the sound of footsteps too far to see but too near to ignore. When dawn broke, the attack came. Shouts tore through the forest. Armored men rushed forward with blades and spears. They wore black cloth marked with symbols, their faces hard. Daniel shouted, "Stay behind me!" His knife was ready, his body between the children and the storm. The first soldier charged. Daniel met him with speed. His blade struck fast. The soldier fell. Another came. Daniel twisted, throwing him into the river. The children cried out, fear sharp in their voices. But there were too many. More soldiers surrounded them, closing in. Daniel's breath grew heavy. Sweat ran down his face. Blood from his old wound burned again. Lyra shouted, "Run, Daniel, run with us!" Daniel shook his head, his voice fierce. "No, I will not run and leave you. A father does not run." The soldiers laughed. "You protect them like they are yours, but they are nothing, abandoned by their own blood." Daniel's eyes burned, his voice thundered. "Blood does not make family, love does." With a roar, he fought harder. His knife flashed, his fists struck. His body moved with fury. He was not fighting for survival alone. He was fighting for the bond he had chosen. Still, numbers pressed him down. A blade cut his leg, forcing him to stumble. Another slammed into his side. He fell to one knee. The children screamed his name. "Daniel!" The soldiers grinned. The human is weak after all. But Daniel rose again, his body broken but his will unshaken. He stood like a wall, blood dripping but eyes blazing. "I will not fall, not while they breathe." The villagers who had followed the soldiers to watch whispered in awe. Some said, "Why fight for them?" Others despaired, "Because he is not like us." The battle dragged on, Daniel's strength fading. Yet each time he should have fallen, the sight of Lyra and Nira gave him power. Each scream of fear became his fire. Each tear on their faces became his reason. Finally, one soldier caught the children by the arms, dragging them away. Their cries pierced the forest. "Daniel, help!" Daniel saw them, and something inside him exploded. His roar shook the trees. He charged forward, cutting down the soldier who held them. His arms wrapped around the girls, pulling them close. His voice fierce, "No one will take you from me." The soldiers stepped back, their courage shaken. They looked at him not as prey, but as something greater. One of them whispered, "This human. He fights like 10 men." The leader of the soldiers shouted, "Enough, retreat. We will return." Slowly they pulled back, their eyes filled with fear and hate. They disappeared into the trees, leaving silence. Daniel fell to his knees, his body trembling. The children held him, their tears soaking his coat. "Daniel, don't die. Please don't die." He placed a shaking hand on their heads, his voice weak but firm. "I am here. I will not leave you." The bond between them was no longer just words. It was sealed in blood, in pain, in loyalty that no blade could break. The forest grew quiet, but Daniel knew it was not the end. The soldiers would return, stronger and angrier. The real storm was still coming, but as he looked at the children clinging to him, their hearts beating fast against his chest, he made a silent vow. "I will protect them, even if it costs me my life." And for the first time, the children believed fully, completely, without doubt, that the human was their true father. The forest was quiet after the soldiers left. Daniel sat against a tree, his breath heavy, his body weak. His wounds bled through the cloth tied around them. Lyra and Nira held on to him tightly, afraid to let go. "Daniel," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling, "why do they keep coming after us?" Daniel's eyes closed for a moment, his chest rising and falling. His voice was low, almost like a secret. "Because of me." The children looked at him confused. "Because of you?" Nira asked. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. His gaze was sharp yet soft as it met theirs. "Yes, because I am not from this world." The words hung in the air like heavy stones. The children stared, unable to speak. Daniel looked up at the gray sky. "I came from a place far away, across the stars, a world called Earth." The children's eyes grew wider. Nira whispered, "Across the stars?" "Yes," Daniel said, his voice deep. "I was a soldier. I fought in wars not of my choosing. I was sent here through machines built by men who sought power. But something went wrong, and I was left behind, alone." He touched the scars on his arm, the ones that never healed. "These are the marks of that life, the battles I survived, the reason I fight the way I do." Lyra leaned closer, her voice soft. "So you are human." Daniel nodded. "Human. That is what I am. It means I am not like the others here. My body heals faster, my strength is greater, and my will is harder to break." The children touched his scars gently, awe in their eyes. They had seen him fight. They had seen him rise when others would fall. Now they understood. Nira whispered, "That is why you protect us. Because you are different." Daniel shook his head, his voice firm. "No, I protect you not because I am different. I protect you because you are mine, not by blood, but by choice, and choice is stronger than blood." The children's eyes, filled with tears, but not of fear. They felt pride. They felt safe. Daniel stood slowly, though pain ran through him, his voice calm but steady. "The soldiers will return. They will not stop. They fear what they do not understand. They fear me, and they will harm you to break me." Lyra looked at him, her voice brave though small. "Then we will fight too." Daniel's heart tightened. He saw fire in her eyes, the same fire that once burned in his own people. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "One day you may, but for now, your fight is to live, to stay close, to survive." They left the forest, traveling deeper into the wild. Days passed. Daniel grew weaker from his wounds, yet he pressed on. The children gathered food, carried water, cared for him as best as they could. Their bond grew stronger with each passing step. One night, as the stars broke through the clouds, Daniel pointed upward. "There, do you see them? The stars are doors, each one a path to another world. Somewhere up there is Earth, my home." The children stared at the sky, their mouths open. Nira whispered, "Is it beautiful?" Daniel's eyes softened. Yes, it was. Blue oceans, green forests, mountains taller than clouds, people who laughed and dreamed. "I lost it, but I carry it here." He pressed a hand over his chest. "And now, I see pieces of it in you." The children smiled faintly. Hope filled their hearts, but hope was fragile. The hunters returned, stronger than before. They carried fire in their hands, their armor darker, their eyes full of hate. Daniel saw them from the ridge, his voice low. They are coming. They will not stop until they take me, or until I end this. The children clutched his hands. Don't leave us, Daniel. He knelt before them, his face fierce but gentle. Listen to me. No matter what happens, you are not alone. You carry my strength now. You carry Earth with you. The soldiers' torches lit the night. Their shouts grew closer. Daniel rose, standing tall against the dark. His shadow stretched long. His knife gleamed in the firelight. He turned his head slightly to the children. Do not be afraid. They think they can break me, but they do not understand. Humans do not break. We endure. We rise. Always. The words struck the children's hearts. They saw not just a man, but something greater. A father, a warrior, a living story. The soldiers came into view, their blades ready, their leader shouting, "Human, surrender now. You cannot fight us all." Daniel's voice thundered back, filled with fire. I am human. That means I fight until my last breath, and even then, I fight still. The night shook with his roar. The battle was about to begin. The children clung to each other, their eyes wet with tears but glowing with faith. For now they knew the truth. Daniel was not only their protector, he was their real father, chosen by fate, born of loyalty, stronger than blood. And as the enemy closed in, the secret of the human became the weapon that would turn the tide. The soldiers marched through the night, their torches burning like cruel stars. Their voices echoed through the valley, their blades shining in the dark. They had come to end the human, to break the story before it spread. Daniel stood at the edge of the ridge, his body weak but his spirit burning, his eyes locked on the flames moving toward him. Behind him, Lyra and Nera clung to each other, their hearts beating fast. He turned to them, his voice calm, though danger surrounded them. This is it, the storm we have been running from, but tonight we will not run. The children's voices trembled. Daniel, you cannot fight them all. Daniel's eyes softened. Maybe not, but I can fight enough. And as long as I stand, they will never touch you. The soldiers reached the ridge. Their leader stepped forward, his armor heavy, his voice sharp. Human, you will die here. Your strength is nothing against our numbers. Hand over the children, and we may grant you a quick death. Daniel's laugh was low and dark. You think numbers matter? You think death frightens me? I have faced death on worlds you will never see, and each time I rose again. The leader sneered, raising his blade. Then rise no more. The battle exploded. Soldiers rushed like a wave. Daniel charged down the slope. His knife flashed, his fists struck. His roar filled the valley. Steel clashed against steel. Sparks flew, men fell. One by one they tried to break him, but his strength was born from more than muscle. It was born from loyalty, from love, from the promise he made. Lyra and Nera watched, their eyes wide with fear and awe. Daniel fought like a storm, blood on his arms, fire in his eyes. His body moved with the rhythm of war. Each strike was for them, each breath was for them, but the soldiers pressed harder. They struck his back, his side, his leg, his body bled, his breaths heavy. Still he did not fall. The leader shouted, "Why fight for them, human? They are not your blood. They are not your kind." Daniel's voice thundered back. Because family is not blood. Family is love. Family is choice. And I chose them. His words cut deeper than any blade. The villagers who had gathered to watch gasped. Whispers spread. He chose them. He fights like a father. He is not like us. The soldiers grew restless. Fear crawled into their hearts, but the leader pushed them forward. Kill him. End this story before it spreads. Daniel fought on, his strength fading but his will unbroken. His scars burned, his vision blurred, yet his body refused to give in. He looked back once at the children, their eyes shining with tears, and he roared again. The fight turned into fire, the night into thunder. One soldier fell, then another. Daniel's blade moved like lightning, his fists like stone, his spirit like iron. But finally, the leader struck him hard. Daniel fell to his knees, blood poured from his wounds, his knife slipped from his hand. The soldiers cheered, thinking the battle was done. The children screamed, "Daniel!" Their voices tore through the night. Daniel looked up, his face pale but his eyes fierce, his voice a whisper but strong. "Do not cry, I am still here." He pushed himself up, his body trembling, his hands empty. Yet he stood again, taller than fear, stronger than death. The soldiers stepped back, their leader shouted in rage, "Why will you not fall?" Daniel's voice was steady. "Because I am human, and humans do not fall. We endure, we rise, we fight for those we love until the last breath." His roar shook the valley, His fists struck again. He fought with nothing but will, and will was enough. The leader tried to strike him down, but Daniel caught the blade with his bare hands. Blood ran, but his strength crushed the steel. His eyes burned into the leader's. "You will never take them." With one final strike, the leader fell. The soldiers froze, their courage broken. They looked at the human who would not die, and they fled into the dark. Their torches falling into the dirt, their voices lost in fear. Silence filled the valley. Only the crackle of broken fire and the sound of the children's sobs remained. Lyra and Nira ran to Daniel, their arms wrapped around him. His body leaned heavy against them, his breath weak but steady, his face pale but peaceful. He whispered, "You are safe now." The children cried, "Don't leave us. You are our father, our only father." Daniel's eyes closed for a moment, his voice low. "I will not leave, not while you need me." The villagers who had watched stepped forward slowly. Their faces changed, no longer full of fear, but of awe and shame. One whispered, "A human taught us what it means to be family." Another said, "We turned away, but he did not." Daniel looked at them, his voice rough. "Remember this night. Remember that strength is not in blood, but in love. If you forget, then you will lose more than you can ever count." The villagers bowed their heads. The story of the human would spread, not as a warning, but as a lesson. That night, under the broken sky, Daniel sat with Lyra and Nira by the fire. His wounds deep, his body tired, yet his heart was full. The children leaned against him, their eyes finally at peace. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "Family is not who leaves you. Family is who stays." And in the silence that followed, in the glow of the dying fire, in the warmth of two small hands holding his, Daniel was no longer alone. He was a father, truly, fully, forever.